Okay, so we are in Parak Yud Zayin and Parak 17 and Shar Dalet, right? So the theme of this chapter is all the different ways that the Torah protects a person in after Misa, after death, right? Whether it is from Gehenna, right, or he's going to show Tchias HaMesim, or at the end of the chapter he's going to talk about protection from Malach HaMavas himself, right? So the Torah somehow serves as protection for all of these things. And he just brings in this chapter, which is a pretty long chapter, so like 6 pages. So he brings statement after statement after statement from Medrash, Gemara, Zohar, all about the different ways that the Torah protects a person. And we can't really, what we don't understand, what I don't understand is, first of all, is why should there be such a special protection? You should get what you deserve. Justice. That's question number 1. Why should that exist? Question number 2 is, what's the mechanism, right, by which it works? Question number 3, we find the opposite. We find that Kadosh Baruch Hu is medactic with tzaddikim more than with any other person. So if anything, it shouldn't provide any protection. It should make him more vulnerable to extra scrutiny, right? And furthermore, we just couldn't figure out that some statements seem to imply that he's protected to some degree. Some other statements of Chazal seem to say that he's completely scot-free, right? And obviously, there's a basic idea that it can't be taken literally. Obviously, it's not like you learn Torah, you can do whatever you want. You're free to go. Torah will get you covered, right? Obviously, that's wrong, right? So obviously, all of these statements of Chazal, they have to be qualified. Meaning they have to, they protect. Again, we will see. Well, hopefully, I have a little, as we go along, I'm getting a little more clarity. But I want to jump ahead before we get kind of bogged down a little more in all of these statements of Chazal from the Zohar, which I don't fully appreciate. I want to jump to the beginning of the next chapter for a second, Parak Yud Ches, and read the first paragraph there. Okay, and then maybe jump a little even further ahead, okay, and then we'll come back and deal with some of these statements. So Perek Yud Ches comes after the list, after the great list. And like I said, I spoke to somebody about the list of these statements of Chazal, and his, this person's interpretation was like, Nefesh HaChaim is kind of writing for, and it was a polemic, anti-Hasidic polemic, as we said a bunch of times already, right? That he was speaking out against their kind of their understanding of what Torah Lishma means, and that's true. That's true. It is somewhat anti-Hasidic polemic, but at the same time, I don't buy it. So his interpretation is, Torah gives you schusim. Those schusim protect you. Because Torah is a great thing, get lots of schusim, those merits, they give you an extra protection from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And because, he wanted to show the Chassidim that this is what he's saying has legitimacy, so here's a whole bunch of list of statements of Chazal that support my view. He wasn't really delving into each statement of Chazal, and they weren't necessarily, being addressed in any logical sequence. They're kind of just like listed. He Googled a list, copy and paste, here it is. I don't buy it for a second. I think Nefesh HaChaim was extremely precise. I think every statement of Chazal that he brings to serve a specific purpose, right? So, but I think the purpose is probably going to be beyond our understanding. And again, I'll point to the text why I think that is so. But after he brings this whole list of all of the statements, in Perek Yud Ches, this is what he says. And let's read this carefully, okay? V'luzois, and therefore, ha'odam ha'mekabel al atzmoi ol ha'torah, a person who accepts on himself the yoke of the Torah, HaKadoshah, the Holy One, lishma, for its sake, le'amito, as it, to the true its sake, to the way he, right? Like we explained above, what it means to learn Torah for its sake, right? So here I think this is a very pivotal point over here. What he's going to make, what he's trying to make, is a very pivotal point. and that is, let's just go back. What was his interpretation of Lishma? Right? It wasn't what kind of the intuitive appreciation. The intuitive appreciation of Lishma is, I do something for the sake of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? L'Shem Hashem. Lishma and L'Shem Hashem is synonymous, which is how he understood the Hasidic interpretation was. My point is, when I'm learning, I need to learn not for my sake, right? But I have to learn Lishma. I'm only learning for Hashem. The reason why I'm learning Torah right now, we're sitting down to learn Torah, I'm learning for Hashem. I don't like it, maybe it's not my cup of tea, but Hashem says I should do it. I'm learning Torah for Hashem, right? So therefore, does it make a difference what I'm learning? No, I could say the same Gemara over and over and over again. I'm learning Torah, and I'm doing it purely Lishma. And he was, and Nefesh HaChaim is basically saying that this is so far from the truth that it's destructive, right? It's destructive. Why do I say it's destructive? Because we see, as we see in chapter 17, that the Torah provides all of these protections, right? Why does the Torah? We don't know fully, but meaning, I don't know how to say it, but basically the idea is like this: maybe I have to jump even ahead. Let me jump even more ahead. Mm-hmm. Let's turn to chapter. Hold on. Let's turn to chapter 29. Perek Chavtes. There's a famous Gemara, which again we're going to have to look into much more deeply. Much more deeply. There's a Maharal on this. There's a lot of words have been written on this Gemara, on Perek Chavtes. So it goes like this: Hine Rabbi Seinu Zal Omru. Our rabbis said, Dorosh Rabbi Menachem Bar Yossi. Rabbi Menachem Bar Yossi darshan. The pasuk says in Mishlei, Kener mitzvah v'Torah or. The mitzvah is a candle, okay, with Torah, and Torah is light. Okay, so again, mitzvah is a candle, Torah is light, right? So the Gemara continues, Tola hakosav as a mitzvah b'ner. The pasuk connected mitzvah to a ner, to a candle, v'es haTorah b'or, and the Torah to a light. Loimer lecha. This is to tell you, ma ner ein omer el lefisha. Just like a candle, which only lights up for a time, for a short period of time. Af mitzvah eina magina ela lefisho. So to mitzvah only protects for a short duration. Uma oir meir leolam, and just like lights forever. Af Torah magina leolam. So to Torah protects forever. Okay, and the Gemara continues again. I don't want to get involved in this Gemara right now because it's complicated. But the idea is there's a qualitative difference between, there's a mitzvah to learn Torah, right? So it's one of the 613 mitzvahs. But there's a qualitative difference between the mitzvah of learning Torah and any other mitzvah. All other mitzvahs are ner, they're candle, they're a particular source of light. Okay, so a candle is also a source of light. What does it mean? Mitzvah is a candle, but Torah is light. Candle is also light, right? It provides light. But candle is a particular source of light, right? A light in general is all-encompassing light, right? So I think what Nefesh HaChaim wants to say, or at least over here, this connects to this, is that if you learn Torah if you learn what the understanding of Torah Lishma, like the Hasidim, which is, I have a mitzvah to learn Torah, and I'm doing it for the sake of Hashem, that what you just did is you downgraded Torah to a level of a particular mitzvah. Now it's just one of the 613. I have to put on tefillin, I have to learn Torah, I have to wear tzitzis, I have to keep Shabbos. It's one of the many mitzvahs that I have to do. However, if you understand Torah Lishma like Nefesh HaChaim, which is, what's Torah Lishma? Torah for its own sake. What does it mean for its own sake? To understand the entirety of the Torah. Torah is an entity. It is the entity that is really one with Hashem. It's one with the Creator. This entity called Torah is really one with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'Araisa is one entity. So when a person learns Torah, it's not that I'm doing a particular commandment at a particular time. When I'm done, the commandment is over. No, my whole life, even when I'm not learning Torah, my whole life becomes, I'm in a constant state of kind of search. I'm in a constant state of figuring this thing out, this never-ending thing called the Torah. I'm constantly, so that's what the Gemara says, that the mitzvah protects for time, meaning when I'm involved in a mitzvah, I have the special divine protection, whatever protection means over there. But the point is, when a mitzvah is different, I'm connecting with the Kodesh Baruch Hu when I'm wearing tzitzis. I'm connecting with the Kodesh Baruch Hu when I'm wearing tefillin. When I take off the tefillin, I'm no longer, that mitzvah is kind of, it is with me, the reward, that connection that I made, I take it with me, but the active connection that the mitzvah provides is no longer there. Torah is different, because by Torah is not, when we're talking about lishma, which means for its sake, which means to just know the entire Torah, which means to know God, right? It's not something that I do now. It's not something that I'm going to, it's not something like from 9 to 10 in the evening I have a seder to learn Torah. No, it's true, I may learn only from 9 to 10 in the evening, but that 9 to 10 in the evening is my whole kind of life. My whole life is just to understand the world, to understand God, to understand Torah. That is Torah. Torah is to understand it, to understand God's wisdom, which is what the Torah is. So it's not at any particular moment. I may have the active learning happen at a particular moment, but anytime I walk down the street, I'm thinking, I'm analyzing, I'm associating, I'm connecting. I'm always in a state of learning Torah, right? So that's Torah is light. Torah is not any particular candle. Torah is light, right? So that's why I think he's very adamant that this if you take it simply, that Torah Lishma means I'm learning for the sake of heaven. Okay, so then you made it like a mitzvah. You make it very particular. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm doing the act of learning Torah, and I'm doing it not for my own sake. I'm doing it for Hashem. Okay, that's nice, but you just completely destroyed the greatness of what learning Torah Lishma means, because Torah Lishma means that your whole life becomes dedicated to this endeavor of completely understanding Torah, right? So whatever your life is, your whole kind of, so then even after you die, there's a sense, again, we're going to see this also, right? He's going to talk about this in this chapter, Yudzayin, when we go back, and later, right, there's a difference between learning Torah Lishma and learning Torah Shulo Lishma, right? And the Gemara says it's okay to even learn Torah Shulo Lishma, right? So could be maybe my whole life I'm going to learn Torah Shulo Lishma, and I'm going to die, and it will never bring me to Lishma. But that's not true. It will bring you to Lishma. What do I mean by that? Because the very mechanism is already set in motion. I may die before the mechanism kind of takes the full effect. This mechanism of switching from Shulo Lishma to Lishma, I may never kind of fulfill that, because my life is short. I'm only, I'm going to live for only a certain amount of time, 120 years, and then my life will be cut short. Maybe it'll take me it would have taken me 300 years to switch from Shulo Lishma to Lishma. But the point is, once the mechanism is in place, then we could look at it as if, a certain part of it is already present, because I'm on the way. I'm on the way. So when I learn Torah, whether it's Shulo Lishma, whether it's Lishma, it's a whole different mahos, meaning it's a qualitatively different experience, because I am in the process of understanding God's wisdom. If God cuts my life short, and so I never get there, but I to some degree, when I get to Olam Haba, I'm going to get my place, in Olam Haba, my place in Olam Haba, which again, my connection to God, that's what Olam Haba is. My place is going to be reserved for me because of that Torah that I learned, even though I only learned a small amount of time. But if my whole life was, this is what I want to do, I want to know God, I want to understand His world and His wisdom, so then I become a different being. This is a complete change of my reality, right? So that's why he's very strong about this. Okay, so let's go back to Perek Yud Ches now, and let's see these words. I think then come out to be a little better. So v'lezois, therefore, right, after I brought to you all of these statements of how Torah protects you, ha'odam ha'mekabel al atzma la Torah. See, he doesn't say therefore somebody who learns Torah Lishma. No, he says clearly, ha'odam, a person, ha'mekabel alatzma, who accepts upon himself. That's already sufficient. He puts the wheels in motion. He accepts upon himself. What does he accept? Oil ha'Torah HaKadosha, the yoke of the Holy Torah, Lishma, for its sake. Right? So meaning I dedicated my life to understanding the Torah. That's my whole life. Once I accepted that yoke, I'm already in that mode. I've transferred myself from a regular human being with, tzaddik who does mitzvahs. I transfer myself into a person who's in the mode of kind of, I don't know how to say it, God explorer, so to speak, the Torah researcher, or whatever you want to call it, right? Again, like we explained what exactly it means to learn Lishma. So then, that person instantly becomes nala. He's elevated above all of the other elements of this world. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mashgiach, he kind of looks after him, or it's more than that. Again, it's right. Hashgacha is more than just looks and more than just guides. The point is that everything that person does becomes significant in this kind of from the perspective of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because he lives now a life of significance. He lives a life of where everything is another clue to understanding God. Every action is a revelation of God. Every action that he does is a connection to God. Even the mitzvahs that he does become not just, again, when a person who learns Torah Lishma, when he puts on tefillin, that's not just, also doesn't become just a mitzvah that I'm doing right now. It's part of my now exploration of God's wisdom. Why did God want me to put on this mitzvah? Why are there 7 strands? Why are this? Like his whole experience is now through understanding God. Mitzvahs is just another way for him to delve deeper into godliness. Right, so his mushkach meitois barach hashgacha pratis, HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks at him and guides him because of that intimate connection. L'mayla mihayrois koichos atvoim. He's above all of the physical forces, v'amazolos kulam, and all of the constellations. Right, so he's above the mazel. Right, he's no longer guided by the natural forces of the world. He's guided directly by HaKadosh Baruch Hu's intervention. Why? Again, kivan shehu dovuk b'Torah, because he clings to the Torah. Ube'HaKadosh Baruch Hu mamash kaviyachol, and into HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because it's one entity. The Torah and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is one entity. So therefore, he's completely attached to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. As soon as he accepts upon himself this idea, I want to know the Torah, and I'm dedicating my life to it. So he's instantly connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So umiskadesh b'kedusha ha'elyona. So therefore, he is sanctified with the higher kedusha, shel Torah kedusha, of the holy Torah. Again, shehi lemayla le'ein arach mikol ha'olamis. It's because the Torah is above all of the worlds, without without measure, meaning infinitely greater than sum total of all the entire creation. V'hi hanoisenes achius. Not only that, the Torah provides the chiyus, the life force, v'akiyum, and the sustenance, l'kulam, to everything that exists, u'l'chol ha'koychos ativim, and all of the natural forces that are created. So harei ha'odam ha'oisig bo. So therefore, a person who learns it, who is involved in it, mechaya, he's the one who brings life, u'mekayim, and sustains, as kulam, all of the world, all of these forces, u'l'mayla mikulam, and he is above all of them. So therefore, how would it be possible? So how would it be possible that his life should be guided by these natural forces? He's the one that's setting these natural forces in motion. Mm-hmm. He's above them. So he can't fit. It's physically impossible for him to be under the influence of these forces, because he's the source of those forces, because he becomes the conduit. He is the one who brings Torah down into this world, which is the source of all these forces, right? So therefore, that's what's okay. So that's the summary. Okay, so that's the summary. This paragraph is the main kind of summation of the mechanism of what's going on. Okay, so again, if we can look even more carefully into this paragraph, and I don't know again, Right? If we look more carefully into this paragraph, each line adds a new dimension, right? So the first line he said that he is above the physical world, number one, right? Number two, he is guided directly by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, meaning he's connected intimately with HaKadosh Baruch Hu because he's connected to the Torah, right? Number three, that is the connection, right? That's number three, he's connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Number four, he is sanctified with the Kedusha of the Torah, whatever that means. The word Kedusha is difficult to understand, right? And number five, he provides the life force to the entire creation, right? And he sustains them. So these are five different elements, looks like he mentioned over here. 5 different elements. And I presume that each one of those elements, if we go back to the statements of Chazal, I presume that each one of these elements provides a different kind of layer of protection in different scenarios. So I presume that the reason why he lists specifically these 5, again, I can't make the connection yet, but I presume that each one of these 5 is connected to each of the things that he brings down in chapter 17. Okay, so let's see if we can, as we go along, we can make that connection. Although again, I doubt we will be able to fully understand it. Why do I doubt it? So again, just to still continue with our out of order kind of learning, if we go back, so we're going back to chapter 17 now to kind of comb through all of these statements of Chazal that he brings, but there's one statement I just want to show you over here. It's towards the end of Perek Yud Zayin. It starts with the words of Besisri Torah in Parshas Lech Lecha. Yeah, let me see if I can find it for you. Let's see if it's yours or something.
Different edition.
Yeah. Here. So, okay, so this is a Sisri Torah Lech Lechos. It's not a statement from Zohar. Achar Advarim Ha'elu. This is by Avram Avinu after the war of the 4 kings and the 5 kings, and after he was victorious, right, and he was afraid that he lost his schusim in this war that was very miraculous, right, with the dirt and the arrows and all of those things, right. So Achar Advarim Ha'elu. So after these things happened, right. So Hashem tells him. The pasuk continues, Al Tira Avram, don't be afraid. Anoichi Magin Loch. I am your protection. Right, I will protect you. So, right, so we know that after the war, Avram was for some reason very afraid. Right, that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu had to appear to him and tell him, don't be afraid. Right, I protect you. So the Rashi says, I think, that Avram was afraid that he lost all of his chusim because of this miraculous war. But the Zohar says something different. I mean, similar but different, right? So he says like this: Achar advarim ha'elu. After these words, right? So after these things or after these words, dop is gomei araisa. These are the words of Torah. Okay, so Darshan's dvorim means things and words, right? So dop is gomei araisa. These are the words of the Torah, meaning it's not a Hashem that's speaking to Avram. It's kind of the Torah is speaking to Avram. And what is the Torah saying? That's what it's written. Al tira Avram, don't be afraid. Anoichi magin loch, I will protect you. What will I protect you from? Mikol zaini bishin de Gehenna, from all the evil types of Gehenna. Right? So the Torah is speaking. So Hashem said, I'll protect you. Or the Torah is saying, I will protect you from what? From all different types of Gehenna. Okay, and so let's finish and I'll come back. So schorcha harbe me'od, your reward is very great, right? And continues the begin. Why is that? Because the kol mandi ishtadel be'araisa, anybody who is learning Torah or is involved or puts effort into Torah, b'hai alma in this world, zochi, he merits Ve'achsin irusas achsante le'alma deose. He inherits, he merits to inherit a permanent inheritance in the world to come. Okay? So that's the whole Chazal. But what I see over here is like this. We tend to simplify certain things. Gehenim, okay, Gehenim, right? We think to ourselves, there's something called Gehenim. It's probably very unpleasant, and there it exists. There's something called Olam Haba, right? That's the reward. That's probably very pleasant, and it exists. But we don't think, or at least we can't imagine, that there might be different kind of aspects of Gehenna. Or maybe it's got, just like our world is so multi-layered and multifaceted, we don't know. Maybe Gehenna is a whole dimension of so many different types and layers and species and who knows what. We have no idea. Right? I mean, I don't have any idea. Maybe the Zohar had an idea, but I don't have any idea. But clearly from this statement, we see that there are many different, it says, Torah protects Mikol Zaynei Bishin de Gehenna, right? From different types of Gehenna. So we see that Gehenna comes in different types, right? So therefore, I'm presuming, again, my understanding is that so we have different statements of Chazal that are brought in this chapter, and we didn't really know how they all fit together, because one is saying this type of a protection, another saying is another type of protection. It's very possible that the reason why these statements of Chazal are so different, right? Even though the common theme is protection, but they're different is because there's so many different elements, there's so many different aspects to Gehenna that the Torah, different aspects of the Torah protect from different aspects of Gehenna. It's not like the person that wanted to say, Torah gives you lots of schusim, you get lots of merits, so the merits will carry you through the day. That's first grade to me. Again, that's kindergarten. I think the mechanism is very specific, it's very logical, and it's very, this aspect, like he said, there are 5 different aspects that he listed in the beginning of Perek Yud Ches of what happened, how a person is transformed, a person who accepts the yoke of Torah Lishma, he's transformed in 5 different aspects. So again, I presume that those 5 different aspects protect from 5 different aspects of Gehenna, or Chevli Mashiach, or other things that he says. A different bechina of the Torah Lishma protects from a different bechina in those negative things. Okay, so that's as far as as much clarity as I have right now. But anyway, so let's go back now to where we actually left off. Okay, and we left off, if I remember correctly, over here, Ubetana Develio. I believe that's where we left off. Right before that. Huh? Right after this. Okay. In the bottom of the video, I think that's where we left off. Let me see yours. Yeah, right. Okay, so B'tana Develio, Seder Leo Rabba, Perek Yud Ches. So Pasuk in Yecheskel describes in detail towards the end. The Yecheskel describes in detail the kind of the picture of the Beis HaMikdash, the future Beis HaMikdash. So, but then he has this description of waters coming out of the Beis Hamikdash and making everything grow and making everything blossom, right? So clearly that description of water coming out of the Beis Hamikdash is a parable, is a mashal for Torah, or for knowledge, for wisdom, right? So the pasuk says like this: the Val Hanachal, and this stream Yale al Safosoi Mizeh uMizeh Kol Eitz Ma'achol, and from this stream that will come out from the Beis Hamikdash, on each side of each bank of the stream, there's going to be a fruit tree, and that fruit tree will blossom, and the leaves will provide what's the word? Will be a source of healing. So right, every part of that garden is going to be beneficial. And then this other pasuk is not really in Yecheskel. This other pasuk is really in Yirmiyah, which has also a similar thing, where the leaves will not wither and the fruits will grow. It's a related pasuk, but they're not in the same, right? But then that pasuk in Yirmiyah ends off v'lo yireh ki yavoi choim, and he will not see, for the heat will come, right? Or he will. So the different ways to read it. You could see v'lo yireh, he will not see because the heat will come, or he will not see the heat when it comes, right? So loimer lecho. So again, the Tanna Devei Eliyahu tells us this tells us kol ha'oisik b'Torah, anybody who is involved in the Torah, ein haroye midas paronius, he will not see paronius, right? That's what choy means. Heat, he will not see the heat, meaning he will not see the midah of paronius. Bein ba'olam hazeh, whether it is in this world, bein limois ben David, whether it is in the times of the son of David, meaning Mashiach, uvein la'olam haba, or whether it is in the future world, right? So in other words, he'll be protected by the Torah during his lifetime here. He will be protected from the Torah, from Chevlei Mashiach again, right before the coming of Mashiach, and he will be protected before he crosses the border into Olam Haba. There's another din, there's another judgment. Again, like the Chazal say in Gemara Soita, on the pasuk in Mishlei, the pasuk says, again talking about the Torah, be his halechecha, when in your walking, tanche oischa, it will rest you, right? Again, the pasuk so the pasuk continues, but now we're explaining. So when you're walking, that's talking about olam hazeh. So the Torah will provide rest for a person in olam hazeh. B'shach b'cho, when you lie down, tishmar alecha, she will guard over you. That's bakever. That's in a person's grave. When you lie down, meaning not only to sleep, but that permanent sleep or semi-permanent sleep. And when you wake up, she will talk to you. That's la'olam haba, right? So again, the pasuk is referring to this idea that Torah protects you in this world, in the time of death, and in the time of olam haba, in the time of rising. Tchiyas hamesim, as the next statement will say. So good. Continue. We're just going to continue. V'zoyer parshas vayeshev. Rabbi Yehuda Posach ve'Omar, Torahs Hashem temima. The pasuk says that Torahs Hashem is pure, right? So kama islan levlei nosher liishtadola be'araisa. How important is it for a person to really put his effort into the Torah? The kol man liishtadol be'araisa, because every person that puts an effort be'araisa, lehevel lechayim be'al madein or be'al madeose. That Torah, the words of Torah, will be his life in this world and in the next world. V'zochi b'trein almin, and he will be zoicha, he will merit two worlds, right? This world and the next world, right? Torah, because Torah is life. Torah is the source of life. V'afilu man li'ishtadol be'araisa, and therefore even when a person learns Torah, but v'lo yishtadol bo lishma, even if he learns it shloi lishma, right? And he's not learning Torah lishma. Right? So again, we have to figure this out. What is the difference between a person who's learning Torah Shalol Lishma or a person who's learning Torah Lishma? But let's say this person, we presume that Torah protects a person if he's learning Lishma. Does the Torah provide any kind of protection when a person is learning Shalol Lishma, not for its own sake? He's not learning lishma. kidekayos, as is proper, meaning he's not learning it properly, still zochi le'agartav ba'almadein. He still merits great reward in this world.
In this one.
In this world, ba'almadein, in this world. V'loidainin le ba'hu alma, and they don't judge him in the next world. Now, so that on one hand sounds like that even Torah Sheloi Lishma protects you from judgment in the next world. I do not think that that's what it means here. Why don't I think that's what it means here? Because later, again, so later in the next chapter, in Parak Yud Ches, again, we'll have to wait till we get there this time, he talks about the difference between Lishma and Sheloi Lishma. And clearly, it doesn't offer those same protections as Torah Lishma. So what I think it means, when it says over here, right, V'loi daninan le'bahu alma, and they don't judge him in the next world, meaning they do not pick on him as much for not turning, meaning for this aspect of not learning Torah properly. That should be the worst of your problems.
Uh-huh.
Meaning they don't. When you get into the next world,
they don't see it.
This is not that they don't see it.
I mean,
again, but this is not the worst thing that a person can do. And again, I think it's for a couple of reasons. I think it's for a couple of reasons. Number one, because learning Torah, like we say, Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam, learning Torah is so huge and so out of this world phenomenon that even if you do it Sheloi Lishma, which means really it's really bad. If a person learns Sheloi Lishma, as again, so we'll see, he brings down the Torah lower, meaning he lowers the loftiness of it. When you're learning Lishma, right? So you're doing it in order to understand the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Okay, so that's how he says, I am out of this world. I'm with Hashem, right? My mind, my whole being is now concentrating on understanding the ways of God, right? So therefore he steps out of this realm.
Right.
When a person says, I'm fascinated by the intricacies of this knowledge. Maybe I could become a professor of Bible studies in Harvard and make my thesis on the intricacies of Talmud. And I'm going to get a nice salary and I'm going to publish a bunch of papers. And so that's destruction of the Torah. I mean, that's destruction. He just basically takes this thing that's supposed to take you out of this world, and he just drags the whole thing into this finite, very limited experience of this world, right? On the other hand, we do have a principle. Anybody who learns Sheloi Lishma is going to get to Lishma. He's going to get to Lishma. Again, we have to figure out, why does that work? Who said? I mean, it's a cute idea. I mean, it's nice that we could believe that, but who said? Maybe it won't bring me to Lishma. Number one. Number two, there's a discussion about this in Achronim that I saw once upon a time, is if I'm learning Torah Sheloi Lishma, right? And now I'm aware that there is such a concept that might bring me to Lishma. Do I have to say to myself, do I have to have that awareness that, listen, right now I'm learning Sheloi Lishma. Alavai, that one day I should be Zoichet to learn Lishma. So if you have that idea that eventually you want to get to that level where you want to learn Lishma, so then the Torah helps you to get to that level. Or maybe no, it's built in automatically. You could be learning, I don't want to learn Lishma. I'm not interested in Lishma. I'm just interested in my professorship or whatever, in the divinity school in Harvard, whatever it is, right? But it's so built in, the light of Torah is so strong, it's so built in that somehow it's going to transform you into Lishma. So again, there are different schools of thought on this, as far as I understand. So I'm more leaning towards this kind of Torah. Yeah, I shouldn't say more leaning, but I feel my heart feels like it should be more the second approach, more so than the first approach. Meaning, if we do understand that the Torah is again, especially in Nefesh HaChaim's world, the main thing of Lishma for Torah is to understand the ways of Hashem, to understand the wisdom of the Torah. That's Lishma. Lishma is to understand the wisdom of the Torah. So right now, I want to understand the wisdom of the Torah because of my divinity position at the whatever, right? My position, professorship position, right? That's my motivation to understand it. But I do want to understand it. My motivation is very selfish, right? So, but once I immerse myself, and I've been doing this for so many years, eventually I will be just, as much as I'm pulling the Torah down, it's pulling back. It's pulling me back. It's dragging me back into its own sphere. So with time, I don't know how long it's going to take. Maybe it'll take 70 years. It'll take 300 years. But at some point, I will realize that my professorship is nothing in comparison to the incredible, great, the wisdom of God that I'm connecting with. And once I get pretty close to seeing the world and what the Torah has to offer, I will say to myself, at some point, this was because I wanted to have a position. I wanted to make some money. It's crazy, right? It's crazy. I have this great, infinite wisdom of the infinite Creator, and I thought to myself that I was going to make a buck out of it, right? So eventually, I'm going to be transformed. That's what that's what I'm leaning. So therefore, since the process is already kind of in place, therefore, I'm suggesting that these words mean therefore they're not that kind of picky or on such a person who's learning Torah Lishma. The fact that he's already in the world of Torah, that is already kind of a big accomplishment. Okay, maybe. Anyways, let's continue. So come and see as it is written, Oirich Yomim B'Yamina. The length of days are in its right hand. So Oirich Yomim, what is it talking about? The length of days. That's referring to the person who learns Torah Lishma. The Islay Oirich Yomim, because he has the length of days. And what is that talking about? That's referring to Ba'ahu Alma. That's talking about in that world, meaning the next world, the Bei Urka the human. Because over there you have the length of days. The Smoila in its right hand, the Torah's left hand, Oisher Rekov, it has riches and honor. So Agar Tov, a good reward, Veshalva and tranquility, Islay Behai Alma, he has in this world. V'chol man yishtadel be'araisa, so therefore anybody who makes an effort in learning Torah, Lishma, for its own sake, Kadnofik Mehai Alma, when he's leaving this world, Araisa Azla Kameh, the Torah goes before him. Okay? The Torah goes before him. V'achrazas Kameh, and decrees before him, calls out before him. V'aginas Alei, and protects over him. De lo ikrivun behadei mo'orehen dedina, so that various sources of judgment should not come close to him. Okay, Katshochiv Gufo Bekivron, when his body is sleeping in the grave, he not raslay, the Torah also watches over him. Kadnishmasa Ozlas Lis Taloko, and when his neshama is leaving to be removed, l'meisav le'asr, and to be returned to its place, ihi ozlas kamo, the Torah goes before the neshama, so before that neshama, v'kama tarin itavru mikamo, and many gates are broken before it, deraisa, before the Torah, ad the olas laduchte, until she, the neshama, the Torah, goes to her proper place. V'kaimo alei devarnash, and she stands over the man, ad the isayir bezimna the ikun meisayir de alma, until the time when we all wake up and to be raised from the dead. V'ihi senigura ale, and also she is the senigura, which means she's the defense attorney, the positive speaker. Hahud Ksiv, and all of this we see from that. This is what it's written: Behis halecha chotancha oisach. On your walking, she rests you. B'shach b'cho tishmar lecha, and you're sleeping in the grave, right? She protects you. When she walks, when you walk, she rests. You come at the itmar b'shach b'cha. That's like a repetition. I'm not sure why I have that repetition. Okay, b'shaita the shochiv gufa b'kivro, at the time when his body is sleeping in the kever, in the grave. The hokidain bahu zimna isdan gufa b'kivro, because when a person is in the grave, his body is judged, right? Because he is undergoing, I'm assuming again, he's undergoing decomposition. That's part of the judgment that a person has to go through, that the body has to decompose, right? So even though the body is decomposing, or should be decomposing, maybe it's not, because we have these stories, right? All these stories that the bodies of tzaddikim didn't decompose, right? So maybe that's what it means. I'm not sure. So, but the Torah protects a person in the grave when he's undergoing that judgment. Ukidein araisa again, and that's when the Torah protects him. And when you wake up, she will speak to you. Kama de itmar, as it is said, bezimna de isarun meisei alma min afar. That's referring to the time when the dead of the world will rise, will wake up from the ground. Hitisichecha, so she speaks for you, meaning lemehabes and yigor alach, to be a positive spokesperson for you. A positive spokesperson for you. Okay, so it's a very heavy chazal. Again, each one of these things have to be really digested, which we're not going to do at this time anymore. But all I want to say is, I think from this aspect we also see from this statement, there are many levels, so many different aspects of judgment. There's a judgment in the kever. There's a judgment on the way to Olam, to Olam HaNeshamas. There's a judgment when a person is arising from the dead. There, each step of each new madrega, there is kind of like a river that you have to cross, right? You have to at each new madrega there's a judgment. There's a challenge. Right, like Chavle Mashiach, right? Before Mashiach comes, there's a time called Chavle Mashiach. Each new madrega comes with its own set of challenges, right? So over here also, he dies and the neshama goes up to Shemaim. The Torah has to break through a bunch of different gates, right? Each one of there's so many, right? Until she drags him all the way to that place, to that proper place where that neshama comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? Why again? Because when a person attaches himself to the Torah Lishma, so he's intimately connected to that ideal. He is intimately connected to that place of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Torah drags him back to that place, and whatever challenges along the way, whether it's Chavle Mashiach, whether it's the Kever, whether it's the Gehenim, whether it's Tchias Amesim, the Torah provides that protection, meaning not protection, but is able to make sure that he gets to the ultimate destination, to the highest destination of the root of his soul, where he needs to return. Okay, stop here.